All righty, welcome inside the East Food Hall, Wells Fargo Center. Brian Smith, Jason Myrtetus. We are in the streaming portion of the pregame shows. The Flyers are going to get set to take on the Colorado Avalanche. And Brian, when we last sat in these same very seats, my rear end was in this very same chair, and yours was in that chair. 22 hours ago, I believe it was.
Not that long ago, right?
We said we're going to go into this game tomorrow night, and we're going to ask certain questions. Is this the night the Flyers will turn it around? Is this the night the Flyers will be able to put the puck in the net? Is this the night the Flyers will be able to keep the puck out of their net? And we said all the answers to those questions would be, I don't know. I still don't know, but there's a big variable change as Alain Vigneault is not in the house tonight.
You know, we talked a little bit off air about this possibility. We didn't really discuss it on the air because I'm not really sure it's our place to do so, but we were talking about if there was going to be a change, what might it be? And I think we both saw maybe this particular change coming if there was going to be a change. That was the variable. We didn't know if there was going to be a change, but the two areas where this team has lacked is overall execution and power play. And that was our thought: was does Alain Vigneault leave along with Michel Therrien, and Mike Yeo stays and takes over, and that's exactly what's happened. So again, it is a fresh look for this team. We have seen this movie before. In fact, it's about 11 years ago to the day, I think, or 12 years ago to the day, almost, that the Flyers were underachieving under John Stevens. He was dismissed. Peter Laviolette was the head coach the next night, and the Flyers continued to swoon for about 3 weeks, right until after Christmas, or right before Christmas, I should say. And they took off from there, and we all know how that season ended. So, is there hope? Absolutely, there's hope. And this Flyers team right now is in a better spot than the 2009-2010 team was in on December 23rd of that year. But again, it's one of those things that's going to take some time. It's not going to be an immediate flip the switch type thing. Mike Yeo talked to the media today, said as much. They can't go in and make a bunch of changes just right off the hop tonight. There's no practice time at all today. There's very little practice time this week. So they're going to go in and just play hard and play instinctive and try to be a difficult team to play against. And then, we're going to see what happens from here. But, I think we reached a point, right, where something had to give, and that's what gave today.
Yeah, it was back in December 4th of 2009 was the day. And some of these quotes, think about this. I think Paul felt we had to make a change. That was what Ed Snyder said. Also, some of the things that were said. Peter Laviolette brings experience along with a different approach to the game. John Stevens was let go. Mike Richards, the captain at the time, said it was just something that happened. Everyone was in the room, and it was a good time to get things off your chest. They had a players-only team meeting. These are things that we have heard this week in regards to the Flyers.
Yep.
And after that 7-1 loss last night, just 22 hours ago, less than that at this point, I guess, 23 and a half hours ago when that game began against the Tampa Bay Lightning. It is Mike Yeo now. He is the interim coach. I don't know if the interim is a week. I don't know if it's the end of the 5 games in 7 days, if it's the end of the year, if it's the end of the season. We don't know that. Chuck Fletcher said in his press availability today, he still told Mike Yeo, you got your hands on the wheel right now. There's no promises, but it needs a new messenger to get through to these players. And ultimately, though, it's incumbent upon the players to find their way out of this, as it always is. Coaches coach, players play. That's pretty much it in a nutshell right there.
Yeah, it sums it up. And that's the main difference, I guess, between what we're doing today versus what happened 12 years ago. Was Peter Laviolette came in from outside of the organization. He had no Flyers connections whatsoever at that time, and did indeed bring a completely new perspective. I don't know enough about Mike Yeo's philosophies and systems when it's compared to Alain Vigneault to know what that huge difference is. I do know that at least he's a familiar face around the locker room, obviously, and familiar with the players. That maybe gives him a little bit of an advantage over what Laviolette had to deal with back then. But like you said, we don't know exactly how I don't know that this is true or not. There were some rumblings when that happened that the reason Vancouver did it the way they did, which really was kind of messy, was that they didn't want to lose here. Yeah.
And there's history there.
Yeah, there's history there between Bruce Boudreau and Chuck Fletcher. So, that could have been part of it. But, it's, like the old adage goes, you can't replace 25 players.
Yeah.
The only thing you really are able to do is, give them a new voice to lead them. So that's why it happens so often, as well. There's, there's no salary cap on coaches. You don't have to trade a coach in order for him to not be on your team anymore. You simply tell him that he's out. It's not like the players where you have to trade or send them down if you have a movement clause, and then you got a cap, and you got a replacement. You can't do that. So that's kind of where we're at, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how this team plays tonight under Mike Yeo. Even though it's a game day change, again, they're familiar with him. They know what he likes to do, and I'm sure that he's having conversations with them at the very least on that. We're going to take this thing that we've been doing. Let's try this variable. I don't know. I don't know what all goes into it, but I am looking forward to seeing how they play under him tonight, and if it at least is a little bit of turn right direction, even if it's not a win, if it's a turn in the right direction toward where they thought they were going to be coming out of that first 10-game stint.
Yeah, and the thing is you need any foundational block you can get right now. Everybody knows this. I am not a big moral victory guy. In sports where they plug in a scoreboard and they keep standings, I'm not a moral victory guy. But this team needs something, and this is a tough spot. Mike Yeo comes in. They're not changing all the systems. They're not going to have practice time. He's not going to have that. He's not afforded that luxury to be able to come in and go, okay, let's start running a 1-2-2. And as our forecheck, we're going to switch to this in the neutrals. You're not doing any of that. It's more about message, compete level, and that's what Mike Yeo talked about earlier today.
I am not a moral victory guy either. You
sound like a moral victory guy. There's a butt coming.
I guess in terms of hockey, I'm not. But when the Flyers are where they're at right now, I think there's an incremental process in getting from where they are right now, which is 1.65 goals per game in the last 17 games, which they have not done, by the way. I had the NHL look into this. The January into February of 16-17, the season of which we shall not speak, that was the last time they were scoring like this. It's incremental recovery into pulling out of that. So, like I said, you're not going to go out there and blow the doors off and just everything in one night. You're going to go out and get get into a 5-4 game that goes one way or the other. When you're operating at all cylinders, then yes, you've got to execute. You've got to, get the points. But for right now, there's a little bit of a process in building back to where the Flyers want to be.
Well, one of the things, with Mike Yeo not making the decisions, you could expect maybe some lineup changes, right? Some pairings and a fresh approach. Well, we know that earlier today, Connor Bunneman was sent back to Lehigh Valley. Max Woolman was called back up. He will be on the fourth line, which is being centered by Patrick Brown along with Zach McEwen. But how about this? I'm just seeing this from Charlie O'Connor's Twitter. We don't get a chance to see warm-ups from our broadcast location here. The Flyers' top line is Sean Couturier, Travis Konechny, and Oscar Lindblom.
Well, that's a change.
Lindblom was on the fourth line before. and look, Oscar hasn't looked like Oscar.
No. He also was never looking. He never looked like Oscar playing on the fourth line ever. He was always on the second line.
Yeah, he's not a checking.
Right.
That's not his game. And obviously he's been struggling, doesn't have a goal in the season, but he's going to be on the top line wing along with Sean Couturier and Travis.
So that's a difference in philosophy right there. That's the kind of thing that that's the kind of thing that you look at when you change your coaches.
Yeah.
You are getting rid of not getting rid. I don't like that term. You are moving from an individual who looked at a group of 12 forwards and said, okay, this is the way we're going to do it because I think this is the most effective way to do it, and you're going to another individual who says, okay, I think this might be the best way to do it.
You know, when I got canned from radio show, I didn't feel like I was being moved on from.
No.
I felt like I was either fired or canned.
Fired or rid of, right?
Yeah, I don't even think the guy who fired me, my boss, Joe Bell at the time, called it, we're moving on from you.
No?
It's your canned. Get it now. It wasn't that way. But anyway, the second line tonight. How about Claude Giroux moving back into the play center on the second line with Morgan Frost and another guy who is struggling mightily, James Van Riemsdyk.
You know, and again,
that's interesting.
I like that move as well. You know, you're trying to find a spark somewhere for most of your forwards, and it's a bigger challenge when you're trying to find a spark for most of your forwards than it is from one guy. I mean, remember, it doesn't seem like too long ago. It was only a few weeks ago when the Flyers' offense was doing well. Excuse me, and we wanted to find a spark for Oscar Lindblom. He was really the only guy that they had to worry about at the time. Yeah. Well, you know. That obviously went downhill quick. So now you're trying to find sparks for multiple people, and that's really the way to do it, is to just, you know, take what you got and let's see what happens if we do something a little bit differently.
All right, the third line has Kevin Hayes centering, Cam Atkinson. Atkinson was playing with Giroux and I think Konechny, Giroux and Frost. Now he's with Hayes and Lawton. And then I mentioned the fourth line, Patrick Brown centering Max Willman and Zach McHugh. Your deep pairs tonight, Ivan Provorov and Justin Braun, Travis Sanheim and Rasmus Ristolainen, Keith Yandel and Nick Seeler, and in goal tonight will be Martin Jones.
Yeah, I mean, that's the excuse me, words. No real changes on the D there. That's the kind of D pairings the Flyers have been running lately. And, you know, I think – I was listening to or watching NHL Network this afternoon. Jim Jackson really kind of made a good point that I hadn't thought about, is that when you are struggling in one area of your game as a team, as you try to fix it, then you start struggling in other areas of your game. And I think that's kind of what happened here with Flyers offense starting to tail off. They start trying to fix that, and then they lose track maybe a little bit of the defense, start thinking about some other things on the defensive side. The first place we saw it was starting to slide was the Seeler-Yandel pairing.
Yeah.
And that's why they decided to try Seeler with some other people, one of which was Ivan Provorov, and a lot of people hemmed and hawed at that. Well, again, you only have so many different ways you can arrange 6 guys. And so that was an attempt to see if they could find something that worked a little bit better.
That wasn't the right way to arrange 6 guys.
No, that was probably not the right way. But, you know, I think they did it for one. And I don't even know if it made it through the whole night. But, you know, so the look there will be basically that's kind of all he can do right now. But again, the Flyers' main concern at the moment is their offense and trying to get that going. So, you know, there's a lot of differences there. I believe this is going to be the first time maybe we've seen Kevin Hayes and Cam Atkinson play together. It's the first thing I can remember.
Yeah.
So interested to see how that works. But again, it may not just be the pairings too. That's the thing. Like under the same head coach, you shuffle the lines. Well, you're shuffling the lines, and that's really about it. We could see a different look tonight, just in terms of how they attack the net, how they attack the zone, how they, you know, you're not really going to change a forecheck in 4 hours with no practice time, but there just could be a little bit of a different philosophy on who's where on the ice and how they execute things, and we'll see what comes out of it.
And not only that, but maybe usage as well.
Yeah.
Situational usage.
I mean, that, you know, not that I would consider a line that has Giroux on it as a third line, but that second and third line, there's not a ton of difference there. You could interchange them, depending on the situation. So, you know, I'm sure that you know, my understanding from how this all transpired is Chuck did not speak with AV until this morning, but it sounded like he had a conversation with Mike Yeo last night.
Yeah, I got that impression as
well.
So,
you know, he has had whatever you called it, 22 and a half hours to process this. And I'm sure he's, you know, over the last 3 weeks, just in the course of his regular duties, has been looking at the group and forming his own thoughts, and probably, I'm sure, sharing them with the rest of the staff. But, you know, I'm sure that he's given this some thought not just today, but in recent weeks, and has some reasons that he wants to take it this way. So
yeah, and he, when he spoke last week, he talked about it. He said he wanted the opportunity to see this coaching staff, the former coaching staff, Alain Vigneault, with the full complement and with all the players healthy, and then all of a sudden, Joel Farabee too.
Yeah.
Then when he would have last night, we talked about it. 5 games in 7 days for the Tampa Bay Lightning. It was even money in Vegas. That's how pronounced of a difference that is, and an advantage the Flyers had. And Tampa came in and hung a touchdown and an extra point on them. And they folded when, Tampa scored 2 goals in 60 seconds in the first period. And the Flyers never had any pushback. Maybe that's the big thing tonight, is that element of it, because of not, if they start the game well.
Yes.
Great I remember about 6 minutes into the game, the fans gave a loud ovation because the Flyers were all over them, recognizing they were playing well.
Yeah.
Then a couple of goals happened, and the wheels fell off the wagon. That can't happen.
Right.
Stick with it.
I did, and we may be close to joining the radio audience here, but one thing I did see or did hear of today that I wasn't sure was going to happen, looks like it is Lappy is back for tonight only.
Okay.
He is going to help out behind the bench, because right now it was just Darrell Williams, who normally is not on the bench, and Mike Yeo. And so this will be Darrell Williams' first game on the bench that I'm aware of with the Flyers, and Lappy will be there as well. So that's the 3-headed monster tonight.
Yeah, they'd asked me to help out, but I said I had the radio
broadcast.
Yeah,
they asked me too. They wanted my they have been listening to us, on the way home.
They wanted me to run the power play. No, literally run the power play on the ice.
It couldn't have gotten much worse, could it?
Well, let's not be so sure. All right, we're going to join our radio audience here in just a few moments here on 93.3 WMMR. Flyers, Colorado Avalanche. Tim Saunders and Steve Coates are just getting for the action here, and we'll join our radio audience right now. I'll tell you, they keep shortening your name, Eddie. It's Brian Smith. Jason,
I'm sure it's because I haven't placed the order yet. We'll get to that.
Yeah, you got to make sure you pay the bill. We're here at the East Food Hall, Wells Fargo Center. It is Flyers game day. Flyers and Avalanche tonight. Flyers a huge underdog in the game tonight. We talked about it last night. They even money going into that one tonight. Big underdog. Cale Makar is back. Nathan McKinnon is back. You got to deal with Rantanen. You got to deal with a lot of firepower with this Colorado Avalanche team. But the Flyers, with a new voice, a new message, and a new messenger, are going to look to try and end this losing skid and start anew. Because that's when a new coach comes in, it's like the first day of spring, you start anew.
Yeah, and we were talking about this for a moment ago on the stream. We'll rehash it for our radio audience. This is a lot, almost to the day, the same situation the Flyers were in 2009 when they fired John Stevens and hired Peter Laviolette. And we all know how that season ended. It did not turn around right away. It took about a month for that team to kind of get their legs under them and head back the other way. And then they had a tremendous second half of the year. It's not going to turn around tonight by any sense of the imagination. Even with with this double, back to back, there was no practice today. The players had meetings, and that was really about it. But you make a good point there that I didn't think of, in that nobody expects the Flyers to win this game. So there really is a ton of pressure on them. It's just, let's go out there and just take it to them as best we can. And it's a lot of times when a team is, kind of carefree in that regard, the change now has been made. They're not maybe stressing about some things they might have been stressing about before. Now that the change has been made, let's go out there and, just have at it and see what we can come up with.
Yeah, the part of having a coach kind of on the plank, if for lack of a better term, is it weighs on everybody. Everybody knows they've been in this business long enough. Alain Vigneault knew he was on a hot seat. He wasn't oblivious to the fact. So when he got the call today, sure, it's jarring, but it's not like he didn't, experience that 7-1 defeat or the 8-game losing streak either. He understands it comes with the turf of the job. But that being said, and on players too, even if a player doesn't like a coach, everybody feels bad when somebody loses a job.
Absolutely. There is
You'd be inhumane not to.
you have very, 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 very few bad people in this league that you would look at and say, "Oh, I'm glad that he's gone."
Yeah.
Very, very few. And with the way that the Flyers were going, again, I can't stress enough that it wasn't just the 8-game losing streak. It was going back another 10 games before that when the offense started to tail off and the Flyers started having to rely almost completely on their defense to get wins. And then that tank ran dry a little bit. So this is not an 8-game thing. This is not a month of November thing. This goes back,
goes into last season.
A little before that. It does go back into last season.
Yeah.
The Flyers went out and retooled in the offseason. First 4 or 5 games looked pretty good. They got some gutty wins in some hard places after that 4-game homestand, but you're not going to be able to have success over a full season like that. So it's time to hit the reset switch and put somebody in to take a little bit of a different look, a little bit of a different approach to things. And we've seen that already in the line combinations we're expecting tonight. And we're gonna see where the cards fall here in game 1.
Yeah, I think another part of the equation in the decision. We all knew when Alain Vigneault came in that he wasn't the guy to develop. He wasn't a developer.
Yes.
But one of the reasons, I said last season why it's part of it is because Carter Hart was bruised and battered after last season. He started out okay, but eventually, obviously, things became very overwhelming. And then we were starting to see that happen again. You cannot afford for that to happen to him again. And then you couple that with the peaks and valleys, regression, whatever you want to call it, of some very key young players like Travis Konechny, who was healthy scratched a couple of times last season and has been up and down in his play and level of play. Ivan Provorov, who's has appeared kind of to be partner dependent. And he should be a player that should not be partner dependent.
Right.
And then you see other young players that, weren't progressing on kind of the path that you'd like to see. And that may be part of it as well.
And I'm not a sports psychologist by any sense of the imagination, but, Carter Hart obviously is somebody who has been very, very resilient over his whole career. And he exhibited that earlier on this year. But even if you have somebody that's very, very resilient, if things aren't going well in front of you and you're not getting the run support you need from your offense, eventually, you're going to start feeling like it's more and more your fault. And that's what they need to avoid here. And that's the reason it's probably time to make a drastic change like this. And let's reset and take a fresh approach at things here as we approach 25 games in and see what we can come up with here for the second quarter, if you will, of the season.
It's not drastic. 200 by 85. It's still the same. The net is the same size. The puck is the same size. And it's a hockey game, and it's going to happen momentarily. And Tim Saunders and Steve Coates, they're going to bring it to you. They got the countdown to face-off coming up in just a couple of moments, and all the first period action. A new era begins as the Flyers will take on the Colorado Avalanche Fargo Center. We'll be back at the intermission. Thanks for listening to Flyers Game Day on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. Enjoy your hockey, everybody.